Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another exciting time of A Crown Between Two Roses. This week we are interviewing King Timothy and Queen Ysmay of Merides. I'm Countess Beatrix.
And I'm Countess Lilya Bintazir of Lockhart. We start all of our interviews with the acknowledgement of the First Nation. So just one moment, please. Good gentles, we come here together in the spirit of fellowship, deepening of our skills, sharing of our knowledge, and the shared interest in the search to find truth through experimental archaeology and historical inquiry. It is in this context that I, Countess Lilya Bintazir, on behalf of my kingdom, acknowledge the traditional holders of the land upon which we gather. We recognize their continuing connection to land and culture, and we pay our respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and the elders from other communities who may be here today. Thank you, Your Majesties.
Thank you for having us.
We're very excited to have you guys here. So you're reigning over Merides. Where is that located mundanely?
It's in the southeastern United States, and it comprises the states of Georgia, Alabama, the eastern portion of Tennessee, a small fraction of the tip of Kentucky, and the panhandle of Florida. So we have 5 states in our kingdom, and two states in their entirety, and then other bits and pieces of other states.
We're Southern, y'all.
Y'all.
So where did your kingdom device and name come from?
So I was looking that up. I knew that question was coming because we had watched the previous interview. So I was scrambling to find it. And I regret to say that I failed to find out with certainty where the name of Meridies actually originated. I did find some interesting interkingdom anthropology that I didn't know. I learned a lot about where our kingdom started, and this interview put us on an exploratory mission to find out the history of Meridies. And there are still many things that if you ask one person, you get one answer, and if you ask another person, you get another answer. But Meridies was the 5th kingdom in the SCA, and I believe it was founded in 78. It broke off from the kingdom of Adenvelt, where some kingdoms on the East Coast were breaking off from East Kingdom at the time. Meridies actually splintered from, it was a principality of Adenvelt. And our actual kingdom devices, the black and white, are the kingdom devices that were created back in the late 70s in the early SCA, and they've been attributed to those early forefathers of our kingdom, and then the contributions get bounced around depending on who you ask.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like a kingdom ANS competition.
Absolutely.
In the making. Come up with the most fantastical idea of why we got our name. Sounds perfect.
That's a fabulous idea. Merides, are you listening?
I expect my phone to start blowing up.
We're going to start like, this is the answer to the question.
It is, I find that with most of the crowns that we've been interviewing, I find that's true. Like you kind of sit on the thrones and then suddenly people expect you to know everything about your kingdom.
Yeah.
Like, this person said this in 1984 and you're like, I wasn't playing back then, but thank you. So I think that this will actually make people realize that everybody's human. So does your kingdom have a tradition that you enjoy?
We have a number of traditions. One of my favorites. I started the SCA in the kingdom of Adenvelt, and what drew me into the SCA was heavy combat. I loved fighting. I still to this day just love it. When I came to Meridies, the fighting culture was a lot different than I had experienced at Estrella War and at Penzic War. And at that time, I had never been to a Gulf Wars. I'd never experienced the SCA in the South. And getting to experience that was really, really neat. There's a combination of Southern hospitality, which is a very real thing. Southern hospitality was just the thing that kept me here. But that Southern hospitality kind of bleeds into other parts of our kingdom culture, including the combat. So when I was fighting out at Estrella War, it was gritty, and it was, they hit hard, and there are a lot of passion and emotion on the field. And then when I came out to Meridies and I fought at my first Gulf War, there were people who would put a spear by your face gently, and you'd turn and you'd see it, and you're like, man, that guy could have taken my head off. And they give you the polite bow, my lord. It's that courtesy on the field and off the field. I was like, that's really neat. That could have really hurt. And we've gotten a reputation of being one of the lower calibrated kingdoms, which I think is an absolute blessing. It's enabled me to fight for 20 years with no major injuries. Some kingdoms do pride themselves on their might of hand. Meridies is a very fast kingdom. We pride ourselves on speed, accuracy, and agility.
And one time when I took the field at Gulf Wars doing my combat archery, I had that exact same thing happen where I was on top of the fort, and a spearman right through one of those little things, the crenellations, was tapping me on the face, and I couldn't feel it. And I just happened to turn when he tapped me just a little bit harder, not like whack your head off hard, but just enough. And I turned and I said, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much. And left the field. But that kind of stuff happens all the time in Meridies.
What other traditions do we have? The crowns when they exchange.
Yeah, so one of the traditions that's probably most well known for Meridies is that the crowns traditionally will die when we exchange.
At the end of each reign.
So some of my favorites, I think Duke Aelenon was one of the first ones I ever witnessed die, and he and his wife, lovely wife, Amber, as they were stepping down, he had paid people to come and stab him.
They did like the Caesar, the killing of Caesar by all of the senators, but he actually turned it into a very clever fundraiser where to stab him, you paid, you donated to the fundraiser, and you got to be one of the daggers that killed the king, which we thought was just an incredible combination of.
And it was so theatrical because he had done something to put ketchup packets or blood or something underneath his white garb. And so I walked up on, seeing this going on, and got a little closer, and the blood was just growing on top of his white tunic. And I was like, what's going on? I think that was actually the first time I ever witnessed a crown. That was a long time ago.
And we've seen so many crowns exchanged in that manner, where the existing crowns will have a ceremonious, glorious, or whimsical death, and then it became like, that's just the way it is everywhere. And then we went to other kingdoms and watched their coronations, and it was a gentle passing of the crown, and we're like, where's the massacre? This is way too peaceful.
So does that mean that you crown yourselves?
The ceremonies vary from crown to crown. And what we'll do is, in our recent coronation, we chose specific individuals of high esteem within our kingdom to actually guard the crowns until we claimed them for coronation. We came and knelt before them, received their acknowledgement, and they placed the crowns. Sometimes the crown will be placed on the king's head by, the seneschal or by a senior knight, and then the king might crown the queen.
That was our first reign.
That's what we did in the first reign.
And the wrong crown was placed on his head.
It was very tiny.
And you couldn't really tell until they went to go place the crown on my head, and it slid all the way down. It was like way down here, and I just smiled real big. And
so we very gently got up and gave a little bow and turned around and did the swap behind the scenes.
That sounds awesome. So
we want to hear about your unique traditions.
Ooh. We have very, very many, as all kingdoms do. One of the ones that I absolutely adore is to hear about is the first crown that we had was won by Alfar and Guthrum, and when they stepped up, the West came over and, obviously made us a kingdom. But the heralds, because you have to announce all your laws at the first crown, the heralds basically stood in a corner and rotated. I just standed on the kingdom halls as the event went on around them. And I always have this moment of I wanted to say to the heralds, thank you, because, you know, it can be very boring listening to one corporeal law after another. So I love that idea. And I think that it should be something that happens at other events like that. You kind of go, and over there, we're having the kingdom announcements.
What a fabulous idea.
Yeah, that's actually very clever.
I have to say that actually happened in one of the events during my reign. We had a major kingdom law had to be implemented, and it was our financial and insurance laws, which we had open court, and we left it open while the heralds quietly sat in a corner and read 2.5 pages of laws.
To do with finance, yeah.
So and people, if they chose to listen, that was awesome. But we were dancing, and because we had seen the laws come into effect, and yeah, it was it was really good to see that kind of thing happen.
So what is an open court? Like, what is it an open court? Is that just
we didn't actually we didn't close court until after all of the laws had been read. So
I misunderstood. Sorry about that.
We're envisioning a big, beautiful courtyard with revelry.
No.
Or like just open court and everybody, like you said, dancing and doing stuff.
I think
that does happen occasionally.
We should have laws written into verse, like poetry or song, so that when they're read, they're more entertaining.
You know, before you become, you get gonged, as we like to call it over here, you have these mad cap schemes that you want to implement if you ever become crowned. One of mine was that I was going to make there be a silent herald where they had to do charades, like, so they had to call everybody forward at charades. And when my consort, my husband, won, he looked at me and went, "No charades." I was like, damn it. That would be hilarious. But that's just me.
That's awesome.
So what is your kingdom known for across the known world? Your hospitality, obviously, and the fact that you're very courteous on the field. But what is the fun things that it's known for?
I would say the revelry of Merides can throw a great party. At Gulf Wars, we've had some fun throwdowns. Kingdom colors are black and white, which makes it really easy to recognize. It seems every third kingdom is blue in the continental United States. And I think we have a lot in common. Now, recently, I say recently, I guess it was 18 years ago, we broke off from, or we had a principality born from Meridies. Glenavon was born from Meridies. And it's really neat to have a neighbor that is so similar, that so much of our culture we share in common. And that's kind of neat at Gulf Wars to have kind of the, you know, you feel almost like a sister kingdom there, and we can revel with them. So they kind of share that Southern culture and that Southern hospitality ideas.
And we have a few inter-kingdom wars that we host that are a lot of fun. I mean, it may not be known across the known world, but it certainly is known in, you know, the lower half of the United States. So throughout a few kingdoms. And one of our favorite wars is actually a war that our local group hosts. It's called Fool's War. And it's just a bunch of shenanigans. They have had some really fun, I think you hosted one that was more serious. Mm-hmm. You were the autocrat for the one about Sutton Hoo. It was like the 4 armies battling each other.
The theme was Saxon violence. And there was a double entendre. But Fool's War is our local event that is dedicated to the idea of whimsy. Maybe this is the one we don't take ourselves as seriously. And maybe this is the one where, you know, titles are a little less important and the formalities of the SCA, while we uphold them as much as we can at every other event, this is the one we can kick the shoes off and have fun. And so it's built that reputation of being foolish, and it's one of my favorites.
And then we have Castle Wars, which is a fabulous event with the same group of people, basically just about 75 degrees colder. So there's lots of fires and just everybody kind of gathering together with all of their cloaks. And
I feel funny saying that we have cold in the South.
We do.
I've heard of snow, but we've never seen this snow. It snows on a bit of our kingdom, like the Tennessee portion, sometimes in North Georgia, but down in our southern port, we don't really know cold, but we think we know cold. And I see pictures from North Shield and I see pictures from East Kingdom, and I'm like, they're fighting in the snow? I couldn't imagine.
They're prepared for that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like Australia. So my definition of cold where I live is very different to Lil's definition of cold where she is. We don't see snow very much here, but I get the minus temperatures in winter, whereas if it reaches double digit, like single digits in Celsius for Queensland, then it's the icy times. Yeah.
The Castle Wars that he actually got knighted at was the coldest Castle Wars that was ever recorded. And we were
it was 17 degrees Fahrenheit, which I'm not sure the Celsius equivalent.
It was cold, man. And he was wearing this
minus
thin night.
I did all this research and I'm like, I'm going to have my vigil as period as possible. So I wore this thin white tunic and just very simple clothing. And I sat out kneeling, and it was very cold.
Until 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
It was so cold.
Crazy.
But the fires were wonderful. So
So this is your second reign?
Yes.
Yes. Is it very different from your first reign, apart from the pandemic, which has just made everything very different?
Absolutely. Different in almost every way. There's been major social changes in the kingdom. There has been political changes in the country that have bubbled over into the SCA. The challenges that we had last reign, they seemed so daunting. Everything seemed so, oh my goodness, it's so big and dramatic. And in hindsight, I would trade this for that any day. Because this go around, the distance has made participating in the SCA very difficult. And there's a longing that we have, even in events like this, where we can get together and talk about it. My heart is just crying for a battlefield and a campfire, and we're feeling that, and we're definitely empathizing with those feelings across the whole kingdom. And so
then we are actually reigning at totally separate times. So the first reign that we had, we were prince and princess during this time, and then actually in October we stepped up as king and queen and reigned through spring. And so we are flip-flopped right now. What would have been the end of our reign would have been coming up in a few weeks. So we have experienced some different, if we would have been able to attend events during those times, it would have been a very different experience.
We were looking forward to Penzic this year. We had our bags packed and we were ready to go, and we were so sad when it didn't end up happening. Uh-oh.
I don't know what he just did.
I'm hitting buttons.
He's hitting buttons.
So what I was actually going to ask you next is, when you took on this reign, did you have a level of theater that you wanted to participate in, or were you just going to try and keep, where is it following on from a previous reign, or were you going to do something spectacular and you never got to do it? So what would that have been?
We did. We actually, we started up trying to continue from the previous reign, but do a little bit more fun stuff, I think. I think that we didn't really know what to do, and for this reign, we felt a little bit more relaxed pre-COVID. We definitely had a few things in mind. I kept throwing ideas at him for our decoronation ceremony, like our death.
Yeah.
And he kept like saying, nope, that's not gonna work.
Yeah. She's all about trying to find clever ways to kill me. I was just laughing. She's like, I've got a great way that you can die. And there would be like the way that I die every week. And I'm like, we haven't even started yet. Let's plan how we're going to step up first. We actually we were very fortunate. At the time that our coronation took place, we were able to have like a mini, almost fake event. It's hard to explain. But what we did is we had restrictions where we can only have 10 people or fewer in a gathering. So what we did is we took all 10 and we specifically got a representative from each order to show up for a live stream. So we created basically, a virtual coronation that had live people there. So it gave the appearance of the theater and the event that would go into a coronation that we could share via video to the whole rest of the kingdom. That was a lot of fun.
So I don't know how we forgot about this, but one of the awesome members of our kingdom just reminded us that we started a little thing Tuesdays, traditionally here, Taco Tuesday is a thing. I'm not sure if it's a thing in Lockhack, but so
Lockhack.
I was listening earlier to Lil. We can actually have this conversation in a few minutes, but hold on. But we started that, and His Majesty, it's a very long story, which we won't go into, but it started with him, and people have since then, like, I think someone brought us a crocheted set of 3 tacos for coronation. No, they're in the kitchen.
No, I was looking for my big giant knitted taco.
It's over here.
So look at this. Speaking of Taco Tuesdays.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
It's
That
meant
is
to be
awesome.
a cloak that you can wear.
But so we also felt that there was just a lot of people that were suffering from not being able to get together. So we started this initiative in the kingdom where I kind of put a call out and asked, if people had tiaras, and if they didn't have a tiara, to comment. And so we started messaging people and getting their addresses, and we started sending them tiaras. And on Tuesday, we have a kingdom post that people can post their selfies with their tiaras on. And I had so many people in our kingdom generously donate money or just offer to send tiaras to a select number of people.
She had a spreadsheet with hundreds of names of people who had I don't have a tiara, and she's sending tiaras off. And I'm like, how many can we afford this week? Our budget will cover maybe 4 tiaras, and she'd send those out. And we had sponsors helping, and so many people came together to help.
And so now we have almost a competition, who can post the
tacos
best
versus tiaras.
That's a great concept. It kind of builds the community. That's lovely.
He definitely wanted to build people up, and everyone loves to tease him about the taco situation. So it's fun. And so every Tuesday we have a thread on our kingdom page about tacos and tiaras.
So I noticed you do chats on your Facebook page as well. Are they informal and people can throw questions at you, or is that we're just going to tell you how we're going? And so how does that work?
Chats, they're both. If we have any informal, they don't need to be read in court announcements that we wanted to make, just kind of get the word out. It was very much inspired by the fireside chats of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So so I was like, he would just sit down and he would talk about things going on in the country. Let's do something like that. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't actually have a fireside. That's something we're trying to remedy. So we've got to actually get the fireside in the chat. But it's been a great way to just field questions. Mm-hmm. Right now, our kingdom's in kind of a tumultuous time socially. We are having we have a major election coming up for our presidential election coming up, and it's caused a major political division in our kingdom and our society. and that political strife is definitely boiled into the kingdom. So we just as we have issues to talk about there, we want to kind of reiterate the importance of courtesy in online communication and kind of tell stories to remind us all that we loved each other once. So don't let the political machinations push us apart, and things like that. So the fireside chats have been a great opportunity to just feel a little more connected.
Look, Marguerite even reminded us about Friday night fights. How could we forget all of these little kingdom traditions that we have just forgotten about?
Friday night fights hasn't been going on too long.
Isn't it like past twice that it's a tradition?
Three, yeah, I guess we're on our fourth Friday night fights. So we started at Fool's War, the whimsical event that we were mentioning before. We were trying to think of a way. Now the event technically starts on a Thursday and it ends on Sunday. And while we do start on Thursday, we don't have as much Friday activities as we'd hoped. Like most of the people arrive on Friday and set up for the weekend and leave on Sunday. So for Friday night fights, it was an initiative to try to, let's do something big on Friday night to try to encourage that Friday participation. So we started a very whimsical tournament where each fighter gets to come into their own entrance music. So they submit a song to me, any song they want, as long as it's not blatantly offensive, which everyone has been really good about sending just the funnest songs. And then I'll play the beginning of that song as they come out and dance their way onto the field. And it's one of those tournaments that your entrance is more important than your performance on the field. Like everyone's waiting for the next song and the next dance. So we've had people come out as whole dance crews and do orchestrated choreographed little routines as they're preparing to fight, and it has a big wrestling theme to it. So it's been great fun.
Sorry to keep going back to that, but people keep posting stuff in the comments.
No, it's okay. That's not a problem.
So the taco thing is so funny because it started in our last reign, and during our last reign, I just being silly one night, I made a decree that an order of tacos, and I actually I wrote up a royal decree. By royal decree, anytime you make an order of tacos, there will always be 3, so that it'll be like a weights and measures standard across the kingdom. If I make an order, I know how many tacos I'm getting no matter where I go. And it was going to be a joke. I was going to post pictures of like Mexican restaurants that only have 2 tacos or that serve 4. I'm like, this is unacceptable.
No.
Yeah. And since that day, for the last 2 years, my Facebook feed has been nothing but people posting me taco things. And I have inadvertently, by that whimsical decree, become the taco king. And people are sending us taco cloaks and taco paraphernalia and taco scrolls and oh my goodness. But own it. I do love me some tacos.
Yeah.
How did you both get started in this society? Obviously you love it, but how did you get started? What encouraged you to go, I'm going to do that crazy thing? So
I brought her into the society. Her Majesty, I was already a member for several years at that point, and we started dating, and I'm like, I have a very unique hobby that I would like to talk to you about. It's a very important part of my life. And
he sat me down and he made me sew my first Viking apron. And I
kind of told her, this is the terms of our relationship. You have to embrace this because I'm not giving this up. I'm not changing it. This is my addiction. This is my love. It really brings me joy. So she's like, it's so funny to see her 10 years ago versus now. She was like, we'll see. Let's check it out.
I was timid. I remember the first tournament that I watched him fight in. He was fighting with another knight that was a 2-sticker, and I'm sitting up on the bleachers all by myself. I'm just like, this is kind of fun. And now I just love interacting with people, and
now she's all in. And the progression,
yeah.
it was so funny because the things she used to say when we had first started courting, like, we have to camp, we have to set up a tent, like, can we get a hotel room? I'm like, yeah, we have to camp, it's not that bad. And now she's like, let's get a bigger tent, and let's get a bed, and let's set this up and this up. Yes, ma'am. We will do anything.
Now we're glamping.
Yeah.
On the regular.
It is very much glamping, isn't it?
I mean, truth be told, though, he's the one that buys a new tent every 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
So he's always like, this isn't really what I was looking for.
So
let's try something else.
Just 5 years ago, I tried to get her in a veil and wimple. And I joked, I was like, you've got to cover your head. Look, I've got a little coif on. It's scandalous for you to be showing all of this hair. And she's like, I like my hair. I'm going to wear my hair out. I have to draw the line here. And then just a couple of weeks ago, she was setting up for some photographs for a little ANS project. And she's like, do you like this veil better? Or do you like this veil better? And I was like, oh my goodness, we've come so far.
I have to say I'm with you, Your Majesty. I absolutely detest wearing headwear, but it's something that has become a part of what I do because it does complete the outfit. Absolutely. I've been doing this for many years, and I never thought that I would actually have that.
So you've been in the SCA for 20 plus years. What about you, Lil?
I started in, I think, late 90s. I went overseas. You may notice my accent slightly different from every other Australians. I actually was born in Scotland. I grew up in Ireland, immigrated out to Australia in my early teens, and I had gone to see the family with my Australian boyfriend, which was hilarious in itself, to Ireland and Scotland. And I actually bumped into a high school friend who said to me, I think you should get involved in this game. And I went, okay, cool. And I started solely because I could wear pretty dresses and drink. I'll be honest.
I feel the same way. We're like twinsies.
Pretty tunic. And hit my friends with sticks. I mean, pretty much that's the key to happiness right there. Throw in tacos and I am nirvana.
You are a pig in. Yep. So when your personas are which time period and when you're not being king and queen?
12th century, Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-Norman. I always get that wrong.
And I'm Anglo-Varangian, yeah.
So when we were researching, actually, my name, my actual maiden name is Branson. And so we started looking around and doing the research and found that there was a small town that I actually may have been from in England called Branston, which is where my SCA surname comes from. And that's not very far from where
I asked my mother,
his family is from.
Yeah, we traced my mother's maiden name was Bennington. And I was like, I really like that. That's got a nice English ring to it. And so I traced Bennington back to a little tiny stretch of land called Long Bennington. And both Long Bennington and Branston Village were like within a stone's throw of each other right outside of Lincoln. And I was like, my great-grandparents might have known your great-grandparents. We could be related very, very distantly. That's period.
Yes.
Maybe this is your like 4th time around meeting each other. Who knows? I like that concept.
One of my favorite things about the SCA is that even if you have a persona, you don't have to stick to that particular culture especially with garb. So, gosh, she
tries on every dress from every culture.
I love
Greek twins.
I love Viking.
Sometimes she breaks the rules and mixes two together that shouldn't. She created something called Voman, Viking Roman. Yep, because she wanted to wear a Viking what was it?
It's a Viking apron
in
without...
a Roman style. And I'm like, you can't do that. She's like, try and stop me. It
was
hot.
100 degrees outside. So there's one event in Meridies which is notorious for being extremely hot. It's called Foxes. It is right smack dab in the middle of summer.
Tournament of the Foxes.
Sorry. Before we ever won crown, my best friend and I both were feeling very hot, and we both had these beautiful Viking aprons from a company called Linen Garb, who the lady who makes that, actually her and her husband are in Meridies. So the apron kind of folds over the top, and then it has these two thin straps that come over. And I said, well, why do we have to wear an underdress? I mean, you know, it closes. So
because
it's not like
scandal. Because of scandal. You can't just go around with no underdress on.
It was 100 degrees. Anyways,
Every time I walked by, I was like, scandal. Oh!
we actually found some viable researched stuff to show that that might have been something that they did. I mean, many years down the road after doing this at every tournament of the Foxes for a few years, but we love having fun. So I might have been breaking the rules a little bit or bending them, not breaking, but
it's an attempt. Nobody tells you how much of an attempt. It's an attempt.
But it's all in good fun.
Yeah,
right?
It was just fun. Yeah. I don't think I've done it since you won crown.
That's true. Yeah.
I have
fun in other ways.
I have a lovely set of photographs on my Facebook page of Akasha's Minions. So you know the movie The Minions? I had a moment where I may have been drinking and I said, you know, we could do that in Norse so that there's like a blue underdress and a horrendously bright open like apron dress. And I convinced my fellow students of my peer to all dress in the minion garb, and our children were dressed in the minion garb, and like, so you'd see one of us at the event and you go, oh, it's a bit bright, and then suddenly you go, wait a minute, she's wearing the same dress, and then together is only when it kind of people went, oh no.
That's amazing.
That color yellow that is so bright that you can't look at it for very long.
Yeah, it was amazing.
That's absolutely true. I need to have this happen in Meridies, and then we can take pictures right next, and send them to each other.
The Meridies minions.
Minions.
We do have a few people who enjoy making the garb from the cartoon characters. So there's the Snow White Tudor, there's the Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland. Those kind of
nice.
that type of garb. So, and it looks amazing when it's done.
Oh yeah.
I'm still expecting them to ask me to hand back my laurel. No, sorry. Give that back.
So every time we fought in Crown List, I fought for years and years trying to eventually become Crown. And every time we would fight, every 6 months, Her Majesty would commission a new outfit, and we'd always get these matching outfits. She's like, and it was great because it was a way to get new clothes that were nice, and it gave you a motive to get something nice and commission something. So we would have some wonderful craftsmen. This outfit was actually what we wore.
No, this is what we were going to wear at Gulf Wars.
Gulf Wars.
At the procession. Hand stamped silk. Made by somebody here locally that she did an amazing job. Usually we also have another local person that makes most of our garb.
So all of our crowns, we have these matching outfits, a new outfit for each crown. And then after crown, we just roll it into our wardrobe and it becomes another part of our regular wear. Only problem is I used to be able to, when I wore an outfit for a while and then I had enough clothing that I could pass something on to somebody else. Now it's stamped all with my heraldry and
my heraldry.
Yeah, I'm like, Ysmay, we're not going to be able to ever give this to anyone else. We're pretty much, this is it.
He's claimed you, openly claimed you in your garb.
Like the lick.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm going to ask each of you, what is one of your most favorite moments in your time in the SCA?
My lady.
Okay. Can I name more than one?
Heck yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of my very favorite moments, and I've shared this with people before. Gosh, I had been in the SCA for maybe 6 months. I'm not sure how long, 6 months or a year. I was fairly new. We were breaking down camp after one of our big interkingdom wars. And our camp that His Majesty and I are a part of always kind of does a lot of stuff to make the camp, the encampment beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And so it takes a lot of work to break all that stuff down. So we were there for a long time. And one of I just remember I'm working, trying to get stuff, taken down. And this beautiful woman walks over to me. And I know who she is because I saw her sitting on the throne during court the day before. And she says to me, "You must be Timothy's lady. I'm Talina." Or Elisanda. And so she shook my hand and we chatted for a moment, but it brought something very real into how much of an impact you can have as a crown on people. Like, it may be very scary to talk to somebody, but she was a real person. And so I think that was a very impactful moment in my SCA playing where I actually felt very welcome. Not to say that I wasn't feeling welcome before, but like for someone to come and approach me and talk to me, little guy.
It did constitute a visible turning point in her participation and her interest.
Mm-hmm.
She had been kind of coming to events almost for me. She's like, I'm coming to support you. I know it's something you love. And then the queen came and talked to her
Mm-hmm.
and knew who she was. And then it became, there was a little bit of personal magic. And then she was just a little more enthusiastic about that next event. And it was really neat to see that spark ignite. That's something I think we both love seeing. We like living vicariously through our newcomers. Anytime a new person gets involved in the SCA and you see that little spark and you see them getting involved and starting to, oh, let me try this and let me try this. And it's that joy and that initial excitement. That's always an absolute blast. That's a thrill.
And so speaking of our encampment, the household that he brought me into is called House Excelsior, and their motto is ever upward. So everything that they do is extra. It's period encampment to the nines. Very beautiful. It's just an awesome sight to see. If you ever came to a Gulf Wars, you could come and experience the House Excelsior inside an encampment called the Southern Consortium. And that whole group is just dedicated to making the atmosphere of the SCA amazing. And it just adds something extra to the event, which I think is really, really awesome.
Absolutely.
And then the very last favorite part of my SCA was we were actually on the throne and it was our crown list. And my best friend and her boyfriend at the time were fighting, and I kept watching and thinking, oh my goodness, wasn't she our chancellor? Or she was like one of our people to arrange everything. And I kept thinking, like, what if she wins? And then got to the finals and he won, and she was just like tears and I'm just like going over there pushing him out of the way. It's my bestie, and reigning with your best friend is a lot of fun.
She met her best friend in the SCA.
Yeah, and we even though we live a few hours away from each other, we talk regularly, we visit each other, we go out of our way to spend time together. I would have never met her ever if I had not gotten involved in the SCA, which I can say that for many of the people who I'm very deeply, who I love with a passion. So it brought me great joy to see her get to experience winning that and to watch her reign.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my favorites.
A couple of mine, I went up to the Middle Kingdom with a group of friends to fight in a tournament called the Mid-Realm Christmas Tourney. And the whole theme of the tournament is that you bring 3 canned goods and that's what you submit to be able to fight, to enter. And if you bring a coat for a child, you get a second death. It's double elimination. And you can bring any amount of extra donations, but the whole tournament is not about the fighters and their glory. It's about bringing things for families who need it in the holiday season, providing food. And that really, like, participating in that. Of course, as a young squire, I went with vainglory in mind. I'm like, I'm going to go win this tournament. And in the tournament, through the course of seeing people and hearing people talk and seeing the energy that it wasn't around the fighters, but it was around what the fighters were fighting for. That was a very humbling experience. It was a lesson of vainglory, and it was kind of like, wow, we can do this for a greater purpose. And that really came to a head when I was fighting in just a year and a half ago. There's a big tournament in Merides. It's our premier tournament called Meridian Grand Tournament. And it is just, the whole tournament itself is a spectacle of pageantry and prowess and beauty. It is our premier tournament. It's just, the whole field is ringed with period banners, pavilions and banners, and just some of my fondest memories are sitting, sweating, beat up and tired at the side of the field, and just taking the moment to look at that in the quiet between the rounds. But there's one tournament in particular. It's a day of several tournaments that culminates in a final grand tournament. There's one tournament that it almost takes the luster away from the grand tournament itself. It's the Chalice Tournament. And it's sponsored by the Meridian Order of the Chalice, which is an order of humility. And the Order of the Chalice has been sponsoring this tournament for years. And to get into the tournament, you make a donation, a cash donation. And the winner of the tournament, all of the proceeds are donated to a battered women's shelter in their community. So it was one thing at Mid-Realm to be able to, like, bring canned goods and to fight on behalf of helping children and the families eat. And then at at Meridian Grand Tournament, I got to experience that every year to see that this going to the battered women's shelter. Now, I didn't win last year that tournament. I took second to His Grace Aelanon. But His Grace Aelanon, in his generosity, he's like, you know what? I want to go ahead and see the reward for this tournament, the prize, to Timothy. So he gave me the honor of choosing where that would be donated. And it was so humbling. It was like, I was just like weepy and I was crying. The emotion was so much. And I came home and I started to do research, and it's that time away, you know, all the adrenaline is gone, all the emotion is gone. And now, okay, where is this money going to go? And they raised a substantial sum.
It's almost like $5,000.
It was several $1,000s, and they raised a substantial sum. And so I started researching the shelters in my community, and then I found one in particular that really kind of stood out. They had a great cause, but they, for lack of a better term, they were hurting financially, and that donation seemed to come at the right time. It was where all of the stars aligned, and while I was not fortunate enough to win the tournament, the stars aligned that the victor was gracious enough to give me that largesse of being able to choose the prize. And then the stars aligned that the largesse was going somewhere that really needed it. And they wrote me a letter. And I remembered, you know, unassuming little envelope. And I peeled that little envelope open, and I opened it up, and it was the letter from the shelter that received the donation. And they were basically explaining that this came at a time we really needed it. This donation was incredible, and it's going to really help so many people. And it was worded much more eloquent than that. That's a very poor paraphrasing, but you want to talk about, like, that letter, my tears stain it now. I kept it, and it has drops where I cried on that letter, because it was that powerful to see a hobby, something we're invested in, something that we do make a real meaningful impact in people's lives. And I was like, you know what, that is something that I took away forever, as like, no tournament will ever be greater than the opportunity to fight, not for you, but for people who really will need it and benefit from it. So it was a humbling honor, and it's definitely helped to shape my outlook of knighthood and chivalry and what it means is in the SCA to give back. So that's my humbling experience, or magical experience.
They're both very beautiful stories, all of them, because I think that we are very lucky to have found the society, and we're very lucky to participate and to find our village, clan, tribe that makes us feel whole. But the actual passing on the gift of giving is actually something that we don't really see or acknowledge. We kind of just, there's that, in Australia, it's called it like we don't take compliments very well. So there's that moment where it's not taking a compliment to give to somebody else, but you're still getting that joy, even, being approached by somebody who you're in awe of, like the Queen. Now that you're the Queen, you get to pass on that gift as well, which I think is an amazing concept, and it's a great lesson for us all to learn. So
absolutely.
So I feel like I'm monopolizing the conversation. Your turn, B.
I was going to ask you about our wonderful kingdom and how much you know about it.
So, funny story. We posted the link to this to our kingdom, and a lot of people commented, it says Saturday at 9:00 in the morning. I said, well, that's Australia time. And it dawned on me that this is a whole like 12 hours difference. And that's really when we know on a map where Australia is, but I didn't really take that. It didn't really hit me until someone mentioned that. And I thought, oh, that's
all the way
really long time away, even further than when we went to Italy. So
I know far too little about the
the
anthropology of your kingdom, but I did have the good fortune at multiple events of being able to cross swords with your knights, and that's where I kind of walked away thinking, wow, my bruises hurt just as bad as everyone else who hits me. Like, we really, from a martial side, the prowess is the same, the courtesy is the same, the gentlemanliness of knighthood, and that just spirit of love on the field, and that love and passion for fighting. I was like, wow, we're like the same. You just have a cooler accent.
You do have a cooler accent.
It's funny you should say that, because when we go to Penzig, we kind of look for the Southerners because of your accent.
Such a big fan of the Southern accent.
Yeah.
So I actually was born in the North and then moved to the South. And during the summers, we would switch back and forth. And they would always look for me to say Southern words when I was in the North. And then when I come back down, they would always tease me about talking like a Northerner. So it's definitely a thing.
I still try to deny it. I'm from Arizona originally, the whole opposite, the West Coast of the United States. And now when I go back, I've been in Merides for 18 years. So now when I go home to Arizona, they're like, oh, you're picking up a Southern accent. I'm like, no, I'm not, y'all. Bless your hearts.
Now, he does a really good, he does a very good impression of an Australian accent.
No, don't put me on the spot.
I'm not saying that he could.
No,
I'm just saying that he does a very good
I
impression.
just watched a lot of Steve Irwin, and I tried to channel my inner Steve Irwin. He's like my hero. The whole Irwin family are like, those are like my heroes. Yeah. So
their zoo is up near me, and they do contribute to the environment, and it's amazing how much knowledge they've spread out about our animals and how to look after the environment. So yes, I think that they're a great family, and it's a shame he passed away, but he's left a huge legacy. So yeah.
So are there some really fun things about Australia that you think that we should learn so that may draw us to come visit your kingdom?
We have 2 countries in our kingdom, which means that you need your passport, even if you're in our kingdom. We've got New Zealand and Australia, and we have all of the climates, all of the different activities. Like, we cover it all in our kingdom, which is fantastic. So
yes,
I do want to see a New Zealand rugby game. I want to see the All Blacks play.
Impressive.
The All Blacks versus the Wallabies. It's a huge thing. I went on a visit to New Zealand, and we went to a pub for dinner one night, and it just happened to be the All Blacks playing the Wallabies. Wow. Oh my gosh, they were packed in there, and it was just insane. And we were too scared to speak because they're just so involved in it.
That reminds me of when a few years ago we went to Italy, and we were in this very rural, we just went on a vacation. We were in this very rural town called Montepulciano, and we looked for a restaurant and couldn't find one. And so because we were in off season, and so we found a pizza place. And so we pulled into the pizza place and went in there. Nobody spoke English. We were the only people. And on the screen was a soccer game between Italy and Atlanta
United, our home team.
So we were like,
I couldn't contain myself. I had to poke at the fans in the kitchen. And we didn't speak a word of the same language, but we understood sports rivalry. And it was fun. It was fun.
So we understand exactly where you're coming from.
Oh my goodness. So things that would tempt you to Australia.
If we wanted to come to Australia, where would you recommend that we go first?
Better question.
Ooh. It really depends on what kind of things you enjoy doing, because there is so many things to do here. If you like,
we love food. We're
food,
foodies.
Melbourne.
Mm-hmm. Culture. We love to experience the local culture.
Any capital city.
Any capital city.
They are all different.
Yep. We love ocean. The times we've gotten on the beach, and gotten to see the ocean.
That's my happy place.
Mm-hmm.
Great Barrier Reef. I would definitely say going to the Great Barrier Reef, going up north, particularly if you like scuba diving, and because you can go right out to the continental shelf and go diving off the shelf.
So you see what she did. She said Melbourne. She said any capital city, and then she said Great Barrier Reef. She's trying to get us to go the whole country.
Of course.
So we just need to take a month off and spend it all over the country.
You should hire like a camper van and travel New Zealand, and then come over and travel Australia, because that's the only way you're going to get a snapshot of anything of what we have to offer. It's amazing. So
what is your premier local SCA event? If people here in the States were looking forward to coming and flying to Australia to visit New Zealand to visit a premier event, the big one, the one that you're proud of, the one that draws the most people, which might be different. It might be different, the one that you're proud of and the one that draws the most people. But what are the events?
I would say two. There are 2 events. One is Rowaney Festival, which is kind of the premier 5-day event that hosts fighting. There's war scenarios, tourneys. arts and sciences classes, socializing, all of that. The other one, which is in Ronnie, which is Australia. The other one is Canterbury Fair, which is hosted in the South Island of New Zealand, and it goes for 1 week. And it has the same type of things, but they have hedgehogs and no real bitey things. And they're at different times. So Canterbury Fair is in January, and Ronnie Festival is a little bit fluid because it's hosted around the Easter weekend. So we actually have public holidays for Easter here, and we have a 4-day weekend.
Oh, wonderful.
That's the same weekend that we usually host Fool's War.
All right.
January is
Not always.
That's our winter season. It's our cold season. So what's the climate like in January?
It's summer.
Summer?
Yeah.
And now
They're on the bottom half of the equator.
Summer? Like, oh, summer, I'm dying summer?
Depends where you go. So New Zealand is, well, I love going there because it can get really hot. It can get up into, I'm trying to think Fahrenheit, into 90s to 100, but it's very dry.
So you don't get the humidity.
No.
Have you guys ever been to Merides? Any of the states in Merides?
I've been to New Orleans.
Oh, that's in Glen Aubin, our formerly Meridies.
Yes, but that's the closest that I've been. And Gulf Wars was going to be, I was going to Gulf Wars this year, but that kind of didn't happen.
So will there be a makeup trip?
I hope so.
I hope so too.
Absolutely.
I'd love to meet you guys in person.
If there's a makeup trip, we do invite you to come find the Southern Consortium camp, or find any Meridian camp for that matter, and experience Southern hospitality. And we would love to, revel with you and share stories around the campfire.
Yeah, absolutely. We are. I'm definitely very keen. We've had a couple of our Lockhack peoples go over and have a whole heap of fun with Moose Lodge. Yeah. And so they come back and tell us stories, and I'm like, I'm really keen to go now. Yay.
There's so much fun at Gulf Wars. There's a medieval tavern that they have called the Green Dragon, and they sing songs up on a balcony. And I don't know what kind of stuff that you have but that is significant, because most of our tents and our stuff at events is take down or put up and then take down. This is actually a standing building that doesn't move.
With permanent structure, an actual medieval style tavern. You go inside, it's all wooden tables and wooden benches, and you're in a medieval pub witnessing bards perform, and it's just immersive and beautiful. So Penzic and Great Western War and Estrella War, Gulf Wars, all of them have their charms. All of them have those things that are magical about them that definitely I would encourage you to return. But there's kind of a theme of each one in my experience as a hard-headed fighter. Estrella War was always my fighter's war. I'm going to be able to sun up to sundown, just get the tar beat out of me, and just have the best fun fighting in the dirt, and just fight all day, party all night, and then rinse and repeat all week.
That's my Gulf Wars.
Yeah. Now, it was definitely a fighter's war. Every day there was many battles. There's like, this is the morning battle, this is the midday battle, this is the end of the day battle, and like your battle after battle after battle. There's just enough fighting to really build your heart. If you're a fighter, it's fighter's war. Penzic, I went to my first Penzic from Estrella, and it was like one battle a day, and I was like, that's it? There's only one battle? They're like, yeah, so there's so much else to see. I'm like, but there's only one battle. And so I felt so sad, but then I started to walk around the site and see, oh, wow, there's a whole camp dedicated to Celtic life. And there's a whole camp dedicated to Roman themed. And there's the Casa Bardici, the Italian villa that's set up down in the bog. So Penzic was like the event of experiences, and there are so many unique experiences all over the site. So Estrella was the fighting war. Penzic's the war of many experiences.
You said Great Western War, you meant Lilies.
I've been to Great Western and Lilies. Throw Lilies in there too. Gulf Wars is very much a a Southern hospitality war. It's a war where the revels they're fun and spirited, and they're meant to bring people together in a sense of community. The camps are not as permanent structure as some of the spots on Penzic, but there are a lot of permanent structures and permanent land. So now the camps have started to build themselves up and put on this beautiful theme and atmosphere. So Gulf Wars is to me, it's a very social and atmospheric war. And then Lily's war was the laid back war for us.
For us.
We were able to go and just really enjoy it. And I remember just kicking back in my little slingback chair with a drink and watching the Viking ship out on the water sailing around. And it was so wonderful. And Callantyr was they sing. They're such a singing kingdom. So it really felt like a vacation. It's the war that felt like the least work and the most like a vacation. And so there's a little something in each of those events. So with that said, what you had mentioned 2 events in Locac. So what are the themes of those events?
Oh, I don't know if we have themes, but we definitely have, like, there are 2 premier events. We have events in each individual group, like, because we are so vast, that are the premier groups in those little ones. Where I am locally, it's Great Northern War is, I would say, one of the events that you would travel to. It has a deep passion for me because I've watched it grow from being a very small event to being a very large, impressive event. And obviously, the more people who get involved in the autocrating of it, the more fanciful ideas come about, and it changes on a regular basis. We've had Loken went to Penzic and brought back the idea of the fire tourney. So we have on a Friday night, they have a gas line that runs the length of the tournament field. So you're watching the fighters in the dark with all the flames going. So
torch field tournament.
Yeah, we have during that event, during my reign, they did because my partner was a Scottish persona. They had Highland Games one on the Saturday night in the main green, so all the villagers came and played. And then other years they had chariot races where, I don't know if you have like bins with wheels on them that you put to your curb, like when you're getting rid of your trash. We do. We call them wheelie bins. They cut them so that you could
chop the top off.
Oh, God.
Stand in them.
That is brilliant. Joffrey, you don't have to build these anymore.
So, and then we have a huge fire there that people sing around, and there's there was communal kitchens that people could actually come and sit with each other. There is arts and sciences. One of my favorite arts and science was really politically incorrect, which was when we had a knight up here who decided he was going to do a collegia on faggoting, which is the collecting of sticks, but it was a continual pun. You were just like, oh, this is so bad. But like he turned around and like the crown was in there and all the knights, and he was just like, oh, like this is supposed to be a joke, people. Like not an actual like class. But you know, there's moments where there's a blacksmith on site, there's archery. We do huge combat archery in our kingdom. The archery over here, we use very small blunts, like on the end of our arrows, so they're quick. So you're kind of like playing with paintball, like a paintball battle, as well as being in armor.
I'm a big target. I don't know about this.
You know, he's 6'9",
you put a crown on. you're a target.
He's like the tallest person in our kingdom.
No.
Wow.
Almost.
So I love the fact that in that event we experience everything. But then I've been down to B's local event, and there's been some amazing experiences at like her local group. So I'll let B tell about that event. So,
well, I would love to. Unfortunately, we are way over time. I know.
We should
this conversation must continue
At Gulf Wars.
at an event that maybe we can all join together in the
That would
future.
be
Absolutely.
I got my fingers
Absolutely.
crossed that Gulf Wars is going to happen in March. And
Gulf Wars or Pennsic?
oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Either or and
And embrace the power of and. Although that must be very expensive for you to travel.
Yeah.
So
Thank you guys so much for hosting this. It was wonderful to get to talk about our kingdom and learn about your kingdom and get to meet new people. And we just really appreciate you coming up with this wonderful idea. And
I just wish Magnus would have said more. He was so quiet.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you. It has been an honor, a true honor. Thank you so much.
And for everyone watching, thank you guys again. We will be back this time tomorrow interviewing the Crown of Avakal with hopefully no technical difficulties. So until then, we will see you. Bye.
bye, guys.